Hi, Monday morning. Back to the last quick 10 grammar activities. So we've got preparation, core, and follow-up. All looks good. Instead of doing a general warm-up, we've got warm-up specifically about past tense, which combines the general warm-up, the hellos, with your language focus, which is good. Using color in the script is also a good idea to separate what you're doing and what's important. So in this case, the do, did, and the choice of the words. And of course, this is the teacher technique that many of you will use on the board. The most simplest one being red, wrong answers, green, correct, or something to highlight a grammar form like simple past tense, for example. So script and teaching on the board or materials, both are good. Now, I'll probably say this another 20 times in this course, but you can avoid using if. It just needs demonstration. Now, of course, this is good English, but to make sure that students understand easily, because as we said, if is not actually taught in elementary school, it's assumed they know. So you demonstrate. So here you say, okay, stand up, and you might just take one student as an example. So Jimin, stand up. Okay, stand here. Right. And you point to it. I do my homework yesterday. Is that correct? Jimin says no. Okay, then you move to the, what is it? Right, right? Left one is correct. Sorry, you move to the right. I did my homework yesterday. Is that correct? Yes, then you move to the left. Okay, everyone? So by doing that with a student or even the whole class, you don't need to use if because they can see what to do through mimicking the game actions. And don't be shy about the examples. So we've got 4 sentence examples for this game. Obviously, that wouldn't be enough in a real class. So feel free to add. I mean, I would probably have enough for one for each student, so that in a game format where the fastest correct student gets to sit down, there's one for each. So in a real class, that's like 25. So I'd expect probably 25 sentences as your examples. So put them all in so I can see what you plan to cover. Even if it's repeating the format, like there's only these do, will, versus now, tomorrow, went, will, yesterday, tomorrow. But that's fine, just add more sentences. Okay, now when we get to the follow-up, remember the goal, and it is to review the key language, to consolidate, and to check everyone now knows individually how to use the language. It should be rewarding. In other words, it should be confidence inspiring. So here we've got substitutions, and of course, anytime you use an unusual word, ask a question or give an example to make sure they know the meaning, or change the word to something simpler. We've said already, try to avoid if by demonstration. When you say this, if the first person says, I will eat a sandwich tomorrow, how will that person come up or think of that sentence? It's quite difficult to conjure it up from your head, so you'll probably need prompts like pictures on the screen or cards, or a model sentence on the board where you show exactly the kind of grammar and word choice that you expect. Then, of course, when you're modeling this on the board, like for example, you might have, I will eat blank tomorrow, and you ask a student. So back to Jimin. Jimin, what will you eat tomorrow? And Jimin says, I will eat a sandwich tomorrow. And of course, feel free to use the Google Docs corrections. Who's next? And then you're like, okay, Joe, you change this word. Then you're pointing to the board to show them the word that they change. Or maybe you want to highlight both because, of course, it's changing the form of the word. Then Joe will give an answer, and you can give both the correct answer or the wrong answer to show students what they should do. So give them a model sentence. Show me that you're demonstrating using the board or cards or the screen by saying, look at this. Which word do you change? Look at this blank, like that. And don't forget to consult the PDFs for things like language, because as we said in week 3 in this PDF, avoid other tenses except present, will, if, could, should, must, you're trying to avoid. So simple things like that shouldn't really be in your script. I will say some sentences because you're demonstrating it. So you get here, I will play a game, jump, jump. Like this, and you demonstrate, jump. Okay, here is a card, and you're either doing it with an individual, one student, or with the teams that you've organized. Right, and you just read the sentence. Tom likes apple. You don't need to say I will, then when I say, because you're doing it in the present tense. I know I've said this many times, but then it's still in the script, so I need to keep saying it, I'm afraid. So I've seen this kind of thing quite often as well. Like in your team, you need to decide. Decide isn't really an elementary school word either. It's certainly not a simple one. So you can avoid that. So you can go, okay, your team won. Who's first? Right. Who's second? Right. Other teams do the same. Even if you add after that as paraphrasing, do the same. I want you to decide the order. That's fine because you've given an easy and a more difficult word. But you've walked through this with demonstration before using this more challenging word. And I think another thing that I'm seeing very little of, and I admit it's more difficult, is paraphrasing. So saying the same thing in a different way. So when we've got this part, use different words and grammar to paraphrase, to say in a different way, and maximize students' exposure to English. So here you've got, can you fill in the blank? What goes here? That's the same way to say it using easier English. And as we said, difficult first, easy second. You can find the paraphrasing PDF on Weebly as well. And of course, the game names that I've given you in Teacher Toolbox, those are just the originals from the book. Adapt them, change them to suit your purpose. So here we've got out of focus game. Now that is literally when you have a blurry image, an image that's not clear. But in this game, we're actually doing a part of a picture. So if you're not doing the focus, change it so that students are clear. It could be part picture or broken picture or whatever it might be. And intro the word or phrase, because every word you use should be important, even game names. Try to show that you're using the board as well. It's still a big part of the classroom. They're massive for a reason. So you're saying here, and a lot of you are using the idea about introducing your grammar or words through questions, which is good. So you're right, you're happier than yesterday. Right, and you write it on the board or point to it. Right, what are the last two letters? ER. Do you know any other words finishing in these letters or finishing in ER? So that's a good opportunity to expand by questions, examples, and pointing to the board. And again, we're trying to avoid meta language. So this table's good. You've got ER, you got showing how to make the ER word. Consonant, too difficult. You can just say word plus ER. Keep it simple. And although this is grammar, and we said that anytime you use video or song or books, you have to do a while activity. So even though this is not one of those, this is grammar, we're using a video. So it's a good idea, and we'll probably do this in our classes starting next week, I think, as well as the activities, thinking how to improve these scripts, because a lot of you have taken good time writing your scripts, and maybe you're not clear what I want to make them better, to make better scripts. So that's the idea of us being able to practice next week to do it and to maybe rewrite some of these. So while we're doing this song, I would have the words in, on, under on cards. And whenever they see it on the screen, those students hold it up or they run up to the board and put the card on the board or something to make them focus on your keywords. So a lot of what I'm really looking for is you going as slowly as possible to make sure that everyone understands what you're doing. So you're saying, okay, we'll learn jobs. Remember jumbled word. As soon as you say an unusual word like this, you need to ask, so have you seen this word before? Does anyone know what it means in Korean? And then, of course, they know, right, this means mixed, just like, or scrambled, like scrambled eggs, you know. So you might use an example from language or something that shows that it means mixed up. Then I show you this sentence, and you're showing them this crazy sentence. You say, okay, John, can you read it? Oh, does that make sense? Do you understand the sentence? No, because it's mixed up. So you're walking through slowly. So a lot of this, you can add other bits to make sure that they're following and seeing what their goal is for the game and what the directions are. Now, I know a lot of you will say, well, you know, it comes later. Too late, really. Every single sentence, if you pile up sentence after sentence of directions without asking for asking questions, giving examples, asking for examples, you might have already lost their attention. And of course, any extra materials that you're intuiting, like we've got 9 subject quizzes left. I expect to see the pictures attached here. Don't just skip it, so that I can see that you've thought about what the subjects are and you are reviewing the right thing. In this case, school academic subjects. So in this script, it's a grammar activity. We're doing subjects into school, and I'm guessing from the description that it says subject related activities, verb plus object, that we're doing what's called collocations. So for example, read plus book, conduct plus survey. So it's which verb matches with which subject. And rightly so, you're avoiding that meta language collocation. So you don't need to include that, but that is a good group of words that you can do in grammar or any other activities. The correct verb plus subject. And just to expand on that, this is another common elementary school example where they're using these verbs with the right subject, whether it's do something, make something, have something, take something. So these are good ones, or even simpler, make or do, that you could use in future activities or games. And something for future consideration is, like here we've got this kind of pass the ball game, which is a popular and useful one. Feel free to add stages to your activity. So you do it as a practice first. Students can see how the activity works. Then turn it into a game by adding points, or the fastest student to say the correct answer gets to sit down, or some writing on the board or cards, some other rules. So there's more chance for you to demonstrate good directions and more questions and paraphrasing and feedback. All right, so again, I think this is something we'll work on in class next week. I don't focus on accuracy of English, but what is important is understanding, or global meaning, as we'd call it. So when you say something like this, how do we speak English about our favorite colors? And it's not only a poor question, but I don't actually understand what you want from students. So we'll look at things like that, how to rephrase the English to make simple questions. And I don't know whether this is a translation problem, but trying to avoid all these regardless of the type. On the contrary, obviously this is too difficult for a children's class, even though well, actually, I don't know what grade it is because this student has uploaded, well, you can see which student has uploaded without the script. So I can't see the lesson goals and the intended grade for the lesson. And the dictionary definitions are definitely not a summary. This would be tough for a university class, for your class, let alone children. So avoid dictionary definitions. So this is kind of what not to do. There's a lot of great lessons. So far today, I've looked at some excellent work, and clearly you're putting time to think about the value of the activity. And the most of what we need to work on is just how to infuse more questions, slowly leading students through the understanding with demonstration, which we'll do next week. But without the original rubric, I think here we've gone through a series of activities that are quite grammar textbookish, like it might be things you've taken from a book, translated it into English or borrowed it. So there's presentations, there's lots of telling, there's very few questions and showing and asking, and lots of misguided for elementary school. So this will need a big rejiggle and rethink of the activities. Okay, that's the grammar activities reviewed. Well, hopefully I'll get time to go back to what I mean by adding questions and paraphrasing, etc. But let's go straight to the story activities, which are due next week. Now, under micro lessons on the website, there are two parts. One is storybook activities, the second story maker. Now, the reason for this is, of course, when you click on storybook activities, it'll open up or download a file which shows you a number of suitable books. So when you're choosing these books, they're not made for Korean children learning English. They're really made for little me's, little Western kids learning English with storybooks. So there's a lot of unusual words, unusual cultural background, situations, which make them quite challenging to use in class. So you have to pick the book carefully, as we have discussed earlier. So you're choosing books with, let's see if I can open this, with repeated language, keywords, etc. So your very first thing is simple phrases, repeated, like we've looked at already with songs, lots of pictures, easy to follow. And these are some of the examples, including the one that I did here in the midterm. They are both songs and books, so they're suitable, as we've discussed. These are all the ones in the DNUE library or thereabouts. I also recommend you can look up for example, PDF files, because you'll need to be able to share that with me. Still running. So I think that kind of covers everything that we need for your storybook activities. Don't spend too much time making a beautiful story if you decide to make it. What is important is it has vocabulary groups, and the activities that you choose are suitable for that book. Again, feel free to take one of these books and, well, if I take an example, so I'm sure you've discovered this, but as well as searching with PDF, like A Very Hungry Caterpillar PDF, SlideShare is another one that people often use online. So this one is one of the ones listed in my PDF file, as quick as a cricket, as slow as a. So in this case, you're teaching or you're reviewing the keywords quick, slow, small, so adjectives, and animals, ant, snail, cricket. You don't need to teach metaphor, quick as a. It's just the constant sentence structure here. Occasionally, you'll get words like this, basset. Obviously, children don't need to know that, but because it's in the picture and you've got it there, and students say, "Oh, I don't know a basset," well, it's this, and you point to the picture, or you take this idea, make your own pictures, or copy and paste these pictures, and change the word. I'm as sad as a sad dog. I'm as sad as this dog, or something. Probably not the best example. You've got lark there as well. So you could choose to change those words. Happy as a songbird. Yeah. Okay. Any questions? Feel free to get in touch. Looks like I'll be seeing you all from next week. And hopefully we can cover the language from your scripts, how to improve them, make them the thought process more clear, using the board, and trying some activities. I hope you're all surviving out there. That's enough for this week.